Welcome back to Eyewitness News at noon. I'm meteorologist Mike Slifer. We are in alert mode right now for the potential for some slick spots, especially across northwestern Connecticut. Over the past 6 hours, we've been watching showers develop across the state. Satellite and radar from the past 6 hours showing a bit of mixing ongoing across northwestern and northeastern Connecticut. It's the Connecticut River Valley here that appears as mostly rain. Elsewhere, though, still a bit of mixing, and there's a lot more precip to come. Notice, though, that the heavier snow is really going to be to our north. That's where a lot of the colder air is. We're not expecting significant accumulations here, but there still could be some issues that pop up. The early warning pinpoint Doppler over the past half hour shows the progression of these showers, starting to fill in the radar a bit across northeastern Connecticut, Tolland and Windham counties, and into New London County. Western Connecticut has been dealing with steady rain over the last several hours. Some purple pixels popping up in portions of Litchfield County, even outside of this, hearing some reports of a little bit of mixing ongoing. Not expecting big impacts from this just yet, but as temperatures struggle to really climb today, we could start to see some slick spots develop, especially by the evening commute tonight, possibly lasting into the morning or even evening commute tomorrow. If we zoom back into southern Connecticut, though, here's Middlesex and New Haven counties. Rain is a bit steadier and a little bit heavier from Waterbury on down the Naugatuck River Valley and Route 8, dealing with some steadier and heavier rain right now. We've also got some heavier showers appearing near 91 and Route 15. These will be ongoing for the next several hours, and even those could cause some issues this evening. Temperatures right now across northwestern Connecticut: 34 in Salisbury, 35 in Torrington versus 41 in Hartford, 43 in Norwich and New Haven. East Granby coming in at 38 right now, 35 in Litchfield with a dew point of 35. Storrs at 38, Woodbridge at 37. So temperatures are borderline right now, but again, we could mix in just a little bit of colder air, especially as we get into the evening tonight, which could allow for some slick spots to develop, impacting this evening's commute, tomorrow morning's commute, and if the snow showers stick around long enough, tomorrow evening's commute too. Futurecast still shows a mostly rain event across most of the state. Some heavier and steadier rain expected later this evening, but it's the persistent signal of icing ongoing in western Hartford County and northwestern Connecticut through Litchfield County, where we have to watch for some slick spots to develop. All it takes is a very small glaze of ice to make things very slick. When temperatures are at or below freezing, if the road looks wet, that likely means it's frozen. We'll start to see snow showers develop tomorrow, too. This is 9 a.m. tomorrow. These will mostly impact northern sections of the state, but could drop as far south as parts of Middlesex County, parts of New Haven and New London counties. And those will continue to move through in the afternoon. Just about 1 to 3 inches of snow total, with about a ½ inch to an inch of rain likely from this storm system. Good news is we're not concerned about flooding. We can accept this rain even though it has been wet. Very gloomy looking on our iCam here in Waterbury. Maybe a little bit of mixing ongoing. 37 in the Brass City. Roads mostly wet. In Torrington, similar. Gloomy, gray, maybe just a bit of mixing ongoing right now. And Futurecast does show temperatures dropping through the day, rather tonight. And then tomorrow, we struggle to watch temperatures climb. So those snow showers that move through could stick. We track a second storm this weekend, although the most recent trends for this one have actually been to favor a bit more rain and a bit less wintry weather. The early warning 7-day here highlighting our alert tonight. Tomorrow, some snow showers ongoing. Sunday into Monday, another storm system. That one comes with a bit more of a breeze, maybe some stronger wind gusts Monday. And then another one Wednesday. And Kara, that one also trending to be a bit more rain than snow. But we still have about a week to figure the details out on that one. Let's get through these first two first.